Happy New Year, fun seekers. I've been under the weather for nearly 2 weeks. This is my 1971 GMC C1500, I guess they called them back then. When I was 27, I decided to blow this thing apart and do a ground-up restoration on it. That started in 1999, so now it's been done for, 2003. It's been done for 22 years almost to the day. So I wanted to go over this and show you some of the ins and outs 20 years later. My name's Jason, and this is Grease Belly Garage. Come on. There we go. Come on, baby. Alright, this truck was owned by my grandfather. I was very close to him. He passed away suddenly in 1995. I got the truck in 99. I did go to Georgia, where it was, and use it for a couple years, helping my grandmother at the estate. I drove this truck all over the place. When I was 15 years old, it was pretty much my kind of unofficial first vehicle. It was in daily driver condition at the time. My grandfather was a plumber, pipe fitter. Well, he was more of a pipe fitter. He always told me that the main difference between a plumber and a pipe fitter is a plumber has a brown ring around his arm. But he did work at nuclear power plants and things like that. And around town in Carrollton, Georgia, he used this truck for plumbing work. And that's in the summer of '88. I spent half that summer plumbing underneath houses in Georgia. So this truck is basically as it is back then, but I wanted to restore it. A lot of guys get this grandiose idea that they want to do a frame-off restoration, and it's certainly kind of fun to think about, but there were a lot of things that I would do differently, and a lot of things I didn't expect to happen all these years later. I didn't change anything about the truck. I didn't shorten the wheelbase. I didn't make it a short bed. I didn't change the engine. Didn't change the colors. I wanted it to be as authentic to what it was as possible with, I didn't want to spend the extra money on all the improvements back then. Now they're 4 times more expensive, and I probably should have done some of them. It's got the chrome package as a custom cab. Kind of like, I guess it'd be the similar version of a Chevy Cheyenne. Not a Super, but a Cheyenne. It did not have factory AC, no tilt wheel. It's got a 350 V8. In fact, we can see it right here. Body belt molding, blah, 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 blah. Door jamb switches. Power steering, radio, gauges. The truck had full wheel covers, which I have in my garage. Now, the seat, I remember the seat having cloth on it at some point, but I was never able to find that upholstery. So now it's a full vinyl seat. Aftermarket upholstery holds up really well, by the way, because I'm going to point some of these things out to you. A lot of aftermarket parts aren't worth anything really, and some are fantastic. I still have the original owner's manual. It came with this truck. This is called a Protecto plate. This is when the truck was new and sold originally, which was on November 3rd, 1970, with 3 miles on it at K&D GMC sales in Carrollton, Georgia. That's where I was born. My grandfather was a second owner of this truck. I think he bought it in 1981 or so. And like I said, I brought it here to Florida, 1999, and spent 4 years on a frame-off restoration, which I have photographed very thoroughly in the past, and I'll insert some of those for you to look at in case you care. However, the first thing that I learned about restoring cars is, unless you're a multi-gazillionaire with air-conditioned warehouses and buildings and people to help out, don't waste your time with it, because you spend a lot of money and you have to keep up with it. for years. Now, for different situations in my life, you know, I'm probably never going to sell this truck. So I've got another, I don't know how many years that I live to keep up with this thing. And that's the hard part, is keeping up with them. I've had to move this truck a few times. I've had to fix a lot of things on it a lot of different times, because you're dealing with stuff that's not original, and the original stuff is just so much better in most cases. So with the popularity on YouTube of tractor paint jobs and things like that, it's way better to just refresh what you have, which I'm going to do on my 76 Nova, and get it tip top and as original as possible. That's my new thing. Keep it, I call them survivораtions, and it's a lot cheaper, it's a lot more fun, car stays on the road a lot longer, it's a lot more fun to use. You don't have to worry about babysitting it and all that stuff, keeping people from scratching it. Although I don't worry about that on this anymore. This needs to be restored, and I'll show you why. Let's start with the paint job here, shall we? Now, this paint job was done in, I'm just going to set the keys on here because I don't care about this hood paint anymore. It looks good from a long way away. It's burned, and this was base coat, clear coat. And I would not do that again on an older car. I would just go single stage because I think it looks better. It may not last quite as long. Maybe a little different to take care of, but it seems more authentic. And the reason is, when you get a weak spot in the paint, like right here, this just feels like plastic. It's like fingernails peeling off or something. It's weird. Now, the only original sheet metal on this whole truck is the actual cab. The doors are original doors off another truck. Same with the fenders, the hood. The cowl panel here is original. All the glass is new. All the chrome trim is new. I put it on. The tires are actually from 2003. You can see how much tread is on them, how much I've driven this thing. I think I've put 5,000 miles on it in the last 22 years. Not originally have a wood bed. I found this whole bed. And also, if you're going to restore a truck, get an original tailgate. That's an original GM truck tailgate. It's a lot stronger. The aftermarket ones bow and bend, unless they've improved them recently, which I don't know. I paid big bucks for that one. I think $400 20 years ago. The whole bed, I paid $400 for, with the wood already in place, because it has different cross members underneath. This bed originally had a treasure chest toolbox down here, which was like a door that opened and had tools in it, and there was a latch right in the middle of that molding. I didn't like it, so I took it out and sold the parts for that. The front panel of the bed is aftermarket. But you can see, if you start looking close, rust coming out of the top of this folded over part here, because it's really hard to get stuff down in there to seal that up effectively, because it's just a big tube. It's like trying to paint the inside of a pipe. For some reason, the original ones didn't seem to do that. Now, I had to leave this truck out in the weather quite a bit. This is the second set of wood panels I've had to put in, and we've had them clear coated or polyurethaned or whatever. It needs it again. They don't make anything that really holds up to sunlight well. If I had it all to do over again, this would still have the original bed. I would have fixed all the dents and stuff in it, and probably would have just rhino lined the original bed and called it good. And it wouldn't really make any difference unless you wanted to go to a photo shoot or show it seriously or something like that, which I've never really wanted to do. I had to put a smaller steering wheel in because of my belly, because this does not have tilt wheel. At one time, I had a set of bucket seats, a console that were already green, and they were perfect, and I had a tilt steering wheel. I should have installed them and used them, but instead, I thought, well, I don't really want to do that, so I sold them foolishly, and now it would cost me probably at least twice of what I originally paid for them to replace them. And I don't drive this thing enough to justify that expense at this point. Another little tidbit for the GMC guys out there. These GMCs had a color-coded dash bezel, so I had to... They're not available color-coded aftermarket, or they weren't. So I had to mask all that off and paint that olive green where it would normally be black. And that thing has actually held up really well, considering, you know, I haven't taken the best care of this truck overall. The steering column is the same way. Had to paint that to match. And this floor mat, this rubber mat, was only available in black, so I had to dye that olive green to make it GMC compatible. Got an aftermarket radio. Always get the ones that fit in the dash. Do not hack your dash. The ashtray is the original single stage paint that we used on this truck. And the dash is single stage, but for some reason, the ashtray was done at a different time, so they don't exactly match. This color is dark olive green, and I think maybe this didn't get the third coat or something happened, but you can tell it's off just a little bit. The aftermarket dash pad has held up great. The aftermarket rearview mirror is a total piece of junk. It just never... It's always loose and flimsy-flomsy, and it sucks. The weather stripping is another problem. I re-glued this probably a dozen times, and it just doesn't want to stay. I think that has to do with a lot to do with the weather in Florida. These vent windows are aftermarket. They're nowhere near as good as the originals were on the truck. Like nowhere close. Got lots of rust and little crevices and corners I'm going to have to go back and deal with. Got some going on down here. Weather strip leaking. But, I mean, it doesn't need a lot of stuff to be really nice again. The aftermarket emblems have held up okay. They need to be replaced. Unfortunately, to replace this one, you got to go inside the fender well, take all that apart. When this truck was restored, I did not paint it myself. Paint job was done by somebody else. I did all the mechanical installation in the chassis. I put all the chrome on it, bumpers. I didn't do the exhaust, of course. I didn't upholster the seat. I did a lot of the reassembly in the end, is what I did. I accidentally scuffed my garage or my house. That was kind of a heartbreak. This entire GMC grill is aftermarket, and it never did fit right. It's been wallowed out and moved and adjusted and beat on with a hammer and shimmed and all kinds of stuff. But it's held up pretty well, and this could be brought back. I need to get new headlight bezels for it because they rust like crazy. The bumper's aftermarket. It never did fit right, so it bent here on the installation. It like buckled when we tightened up the bolts. The truck was built without power brakes, but now it has them because I bought the stuff to do it. This has manual disc brakes from the factory. It was such a pain to stop, I had to upgrade that. Works great. I started out with all the original GM orange intake manifold valve covers. I wanted it to look completely original, down to the heater hoses. Always had trouble with the points here in Florida with the humidity and whatnot. So I ended up putting originally an Edelbrock carburetor on here. Now it's got a Holley. It's had 3 or 4 sets of valve covers on it. I did have a weird problem with the fuel pump shaft. Got stuck in the block. It wouldn't drive the mechanical fuel pump. So I had an electric fuel pump for a couple years, I think. My buddy Rick got the push rod freed up for me and got it out of there somehow. Put another mechanical pump on it and it started working again. Haven't had that problem since. It's been converted to HEI. But if I could go back in time and do all this over again, this would probably be upgraded maybe one more level. Maybe headers. Maybe serpentine drive belts. Probable air conditioning system would be installed, and it would be a lot better, you know, situation for driving it. This has green overspray on it, and I never knew that or realized that. I also thought I was being clever by using various stainless steel hardware pieces, and that's not worth it either. There's the HEI in the back. Obviously it needs an air filter. My dad was just here over the holidays, and we had to replace all the fuel lines from the cab, or from the tank behind the seat under the truck, down to the mechanical pump. They were all dry rotted, and up to the carburetor, because it was sucking so much air and leaking so much gas, it wouldn't run very good. Carburetor probably needs to be gone through once again. The aftermarket wiring harness is not, it's good, but it's not perfect. You know, they're a little bit shorter here, a little bit longer there. You know, they look the same, they plug in, they work. I never quite got some of the things done, like this little knob here that goes on the seat. I have it somewhere. It's probably in that red box right there. Same with the shifter knob on the end of the shifter. There's no plastic knobular. I have one in that box. I never got it put on. This truck also did not have the chrome trim around the pedals, but that's all I could find at the time. It also did not have the chrome rings around the marker lights, but I wanted it to look like a Sierra Grande. They called the GMC. Oh, mirror got busted out in the hurricane. Oh, the neutral safety switch really sucks. There it goes. Uh-oh. Yeah, more carburetor trouble. Drove this thing like half an hour ago, and it didn't want to restart, but we're running now. Here's the fancy GMC steering wheel. One of my friends installed this, but when you're driving straight, it looks like this, kind of annoying. The inside of the cab has always been pretty good, though. This is single stage paint here, not clear coat. It just seems like it holds up better to me. Call me crazy, and of course this is inside, but I know lots of guys that have restored cars with single stage paint, and if you keep them waxed, they look good for a very long time. I still got the original gas can or gas tank location. I probably would have put this gas tank back under the frame like a lot of guys do. Goes in there, and it's like ready to explode behind the seat, I guess, if you get into an accident. That's what I hear. This truck explodes while I'm in it, there's going to be bits of bacon all over the place. This is an original look that I wanted with the disc brakes. 1971 was the first year for disc brakes on these trucks. Not necessarily power disc brakes, like this one was manual disc brakes, but I believe all the half tons came with these, most all of them. A lot of this aftermarket chrome has held up well. See, this bumper's just now starting to get a little surface rust. The back bumper's been good. The exhaust guys did a great job. I did not want to go with bigger wheels. Even 20 years ago, that was a popular thing to do. But I like more tire and less wheel because it rides better. I don't really care about the 17, 18-inch, 20-inch look. This truck's just as usable. The worst rust that's coming back is right in this area here. And I noticed this quite some time ago. I need to deal with that for sure. The rest of the cab looks pretty good. I think I'm starting to get a little bit of rust on the bottom of the passenger door. Something smacked the chrome there. I got a couple rust bubbles in the passenger door right here. I need to do the door, passenger door, the hood, the drip rail around the truck, shine up all the chrome on the grill, tidy up the bed, and I'm going to drive it this year. Haven't been able to drive this much for several years. I also got insurance on the Nova, and I'm not going to restore that ever. It's going to stay just like that, except fix what's necessary. It's in an upcoming video. Market parts like this are pretty much just junk. This thing broke days after I bought it. This is my 1976 Nova that I'm not going to restore. Well, I mean, it's a pretty nice car to begin with, but It's not really all that much nicer than my grandfather's truck was when I decided to blow it to a million pieces. Gonna drive this car because it's so good. And I know a lot of people will have a meltdown about this right here. But you see, I've learned my lesson. I'm gonna just fix this up the best that I can, match the paint the best that I can, polish the rest of the car, put a set of tires on it, clean up the interior. I'm gonna leave everything else well enough alone. Just gonna clean this up really good in here, clean the carpets up, probably just leave that towel in the back seat forever. The headliner is already falling down that I did a terrible job of gluing back in the cold. But you know what? I might just pull that material off and leave the cardboard thing behind it. Or put something else up there. Maybe a tablecloth or something. But this is a good car. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to mess it up. Because sometimes when you restore a car, unless you can keep it museum quality, you just run the risk of messing them up. Don't be in too big of a hurry to restore a car, like from the ground up. If you want to paint it or keep it patinaed or whatever you like, that's good. But you're way better off keeping it low budget, user-friendly, to be able to put it back on the road as soon as possible. So keep that in mind. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate you giving me a thumbs up, leaving comments down below, good or bad, doesn't matter to me. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I hope you had a great holiday. In the meantime, I will most certainly catch you on the flip side.
Thanks for tuning in, Fun Seekers. Make sure you tune in again.